ever once looked like death sucking on a lifesaver, but that's not why we're here. Okay. Mama's doing some things with some raw milk. Y'all want to do a few things? I've done them so I know that they work. We're going to make Greek-style yogurt. We're going to make cream cheese. And we're going to make butter. You want to? Okay. Well, we're going to start with the butter because I've got to separate the cream from the last gallon of milk that I have. I've done a gallon and a half. We're going to do the next 2 half gallons, and we are going to make all 3 of those things from those 2 half gallons. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get all the cream off of these 2 half gallons so that we can make butter. So let me show you what we're doing. All right. So you should be able to see that. Do you see that? You see that line right here? That's the cream, okay? We got some over here. We're not going to get every bit of it, but we're going to get more than a little, right? We've already done 1 thing of butter. So we're going to do 2. I kind of ran just to see what I could get, and now that I know what I'm doing, we're going to run through it. So what I do is I take a little ladle like this, see, and we just go up at the top. Look at all that. Look at that. You see how thick that is? Look at that. I'm going to put it in another jar, okay? And we're going to keep going until we get about down to the milk level, okay? And I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. All right. That's about how much cream we got out of both of those. Now, you can still see there's still some there. See, there's the line. We don't want to take it all. There's the line on that one because I need some extra. So we're going to take this cream and we're going to go put it in my mixer. And we're going to put it on medium speed and we're just going to leave it alone. Make sure your mixer's clean. I cleaned this out with vinegar before I did my first batch of butter, and I've not done anything else. So we're fine. We're going to empty in all this cream, scrape it all out. Right. Now this is going to go about on that for a hot minute. I'm just going to basically stick a towel over this. We'll come back and check it. When it gets a little bit more to kind of the whipped cream consistency, I'll turn it up just a little bit. Now, how do we know when butter's done? It makes this weird sloshy sound. It's going to take a little bit, probably about 30 minutes or so. I'll check it after about 10. We'll see if we're frothy. If we are, then I'm going to turn it up. And then I'm going to kind of stay close because it will make a different sound. You hear how it sounds now? It won't sound like that when we have butter. It sounds all and sloshy. Okay? Now, in the meantime, the next thing we're going to go ahead and get started is we're going to start another batch of the cream cheese. And the reason I'm going to do this first is because the yogurt takes 24 hours, right? Technically, in this stage, I'm actually pasteurizing the milk, the butter that is as raw can get. Now, this is for my girlfriend. These are her cows. I am not a fan of raw milk. I have figured that part out. But I'm happy to process for her whatever it is that she would basically like. And she has decided she wanted yogurt, butter, cream cheese. Pretty much whatever I said I could make. And these are the 3 things that look like they're coming out just fine. So, we're going to make another batch of cream cheese. I have an Instapot. So, all I'm basically doing is I'm going to put a half gallon of this milk in my Instapot. I'm going to put it on the yogurt setting and I'm going to hit boil. When it's done, that's basically pasteurized. What I'm going to do at that point is add in the lemon juice and let the cheese or the milk solids pull away from the whey. What are we doing with the whey? I'm glad you asked. She has a bit of whey. We are not throwing this away. You can feed that to your chickens, your dogs. You could technically make protein drinks with this. You could do whatever the hell you wanted to with it. But I'm sending it back because I told her she really ought to feed it to her chickens. It's supposed to make their egg yolks more yellow, higher protein, those type things. So you could do with that whatever you wanted. Again, it's pasteurized because I've already cooked it all. So technically these next 2 things I'm making are not made from raw milk because we went through that process of doing it. And while I don't necessarily like the taste of raw milk, I will tell you when it's pasteurized, it actually smells really good. So let me get this in here and I'll show you what we're doing. All right, now this time we shook the milk up really good because I wanted to get all the cream out of it and I wanted it mixed up, so we've stuck it in there. So basically what I'm going to do is, hang on. All right, we're going to hit the yogurt setting, and it's already on boil because that was the last thing that I did. So we're going to let that go, and when it's done, it will come back and say yogurt. For the cheese, we don't have to really wait for it to cool down. I'm just going to add the lemon juice in it immediately and let it do its thing. Once we get... sorry for the beep. Once we get that done, we'll basically wipe out the inside of it because we don't want any of the lemon juice in there. So we'll wash it out really good, and then we'll take the next half a gallon and we'll do the same thing starting the yogurt. Okay, we've been going a few minutes. We'll turn it up a little bit. Hear what that sounds like? It's fixing to turn into butter here in just a minute. See? We're almost there. Hear that? See that sloshy sloshy? That should be done. And it is. There's the difference. Let's turn it off before we make a big huge mess. So see, you could hear that difference. It just sounded like the mixer, and then all of a sudden it sounded like something solid splashing in liquid, 'cause it is. All right, now, since this is raw milk, we have to really wash this butter. If we don't wash it really well, it will go rancid really quickly, okay? All right. Now, I'm going to put cheesecloth down, and I'm going to dump all of this. Technically, the liquid, hang on. The liquid you get out of this is buttermilk. Am I going to save it? No. Just simply because I don't need it, and she doesn't want it. So with cold water, we're going to rinse the you-know-what out of this. Now how we do that is we keep mushing the butter back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, not with our hands, with the cheesecloth, and that's how we rinse it out. All right, so we've rinsed it a lot, and then we've squeezed it out. And then now I'm going to take a little bit of flaky sea salt, not a whole lot, just a little bit. And then we're going to massage that in, and then we're going to wrap up the butter, and it's done. Here's the pretty butter. I'm just going to wrap it up in some parchment paper and put a date on it, and the butter's done. Now that was perfect timing because this literally just stopped. So I'm going to open it up. We don't need to let this cool down any. There's what the milk looks like. I'll stir it here in just a second, and then basically I'm going to put in about 1/4 cup of lemon juice. You can use vinegar. I prefer to use lemon juice, so that's what we're going to do. All right, there's the 1/4 cup of lemon juice. We're going to stir it in, and it should basically start to curdle immediately. If it doesn't start curdling and separating fairly quickly, you may not have put enough acid in there. Clearly I have. You see that moving. I figured that out. If it wasn't separating clear enough, just put another little bit more of the acid in there and it will basically do its trick. So we're going to leave this alone and we're going to let the curds separate from the whey. All right, that only took about 5 minutes. We're basically just going to dump all this in here to separate out the curd and the whey. When you're making cheese, you don't have to let this cool down. When we make yogurt, we'll have to let the milk actually cool all the way down. So now we're just going to drain all of the whey. We want this pretty dry because my very first batch, I didn't get enough water out of it and it made it too loose, but that's okay because we're fixing it. So when this drains enough, I'm going to empty it into the jar. And yes, we're going to have a part 2 for the yogurt. All right, now this is pretty dry. You see that? We're going to put that in the food processor and let it start to mix. Okay, this has been going for a minute or so, and the longer you let this go, the creamier it's going to get. Now, this is really thick, and it's not as creamy as I want. Since my first batch ended up real liquidy. See how beautiful that is? But it's a little too thin. I'm going to add this to that to get it the correct consistency. There's probably going to be a part 2 for this as well. Now you can see this is really starting to get creamy. Just like bread, you need to add a little bit of salt to it if you want it to have some flavor. So that's exactly what I'm going to do, and we're going to mix it a little more. You're just going to have to come back for part 2 to see how that turned out. You're welcome.